Hey guys, and welcome to another devlog video for the Animal Behavior Kit. I've made a lot of progress since the last video. A lot of the time spent has been in general cleanup of the kit. Documentation, naming variables, writing comments, cleaning old variables that are no longer used. A lot of effort has been going on streamlining the behaviors and the variables and just the general look and feel of the kit. And I'm really happy how it's turned out. But I've also made some actual feature improvements, which is what I wanted to talk to you guys today, right? Obviously, there's been a lot of little bug fixes here and there that I've discovered as I'm continue to test all of the different changes. But again, all that stuff you can't really show. Just kind of have to take my word for it that it's a lot cleaner and streamlined, right? But there's three things that I did want to show you guys today. And again, these are just general improvements on what's been out there. So the first thing I want to show you guys is general improvements to just the cosmetics of the animals. If you guys see here, I have a buck and 3 does. And you can see if I just hit play here, they are engaged now. So when they're engaged, the color of the letters goes to red. But if they're not engaged, the default color is white. Now, if you wanted to change that color or anything about this, font size or anything like that, you would have to go to the generic widget class and change it, which of course you can do. However, that would change it to all of the animals, right? So one of the small things that I did is I added the ability now, if you click on any of the ground animals and go under general setup, there's a struct called animal details. And if you expand that, you'll see things like show HUD, show animal name, show HP, what's the actual animal name that I'll display. But there's two additional things that I've added: name display color and name display font. And this is pretty cool because now you can change the font, including the family type, the typeface, and the size of the font, or even include a font material, right? The default in Unreal is Roboto, right? But you can change it to something else. You can change the size, and you can change the color. That means that now you can have different colors for animal types. And if you played any MMOs, for example, like World of Warcraft, some mobs that are aggressive would be in red, for example, and some that would not be aggressive would be for perhaps in green, right? So now you have that option. So if I want to come here and say, instead of white, I want this guy's name to be green, and I'm gonna go ahead and come here and make myself invisible. You'll see that now Buck, which is the leader of this group, is now green, while the other does are white, which is the default, right? And again, I can just come here and do the exact same thing. I can just kind of collapse these two setup and then come to details and say, for this specific animal, I want doe to be, I don't know, let's make her like a little pink color here. And same thing, I'm going to make myself invisible. And as I'm coming here, you can see that this specific animal has a different text color than these two. And Buck, which is the leader, has the green. So again, just an extra layer of customization that you can add to your game. Not a big deal. It was simple enough to add. But again, those are the things as I'm going through the kit that I'm realizing this will be actually really, really good to have to give you guys as much flexibility as possible. So same thing, I'm not going to show it, but you get the idea. You can change the font size and the font family as well. So if you had, for example, bears had a different font size, or bigger animals may have a bigger font size, for example, than tiny animals. So you do have some control there. That's obviously a fairly small enhancement. The biggest enhancement has been actually on the group code, right? So as you can see here, these 4 deers are part of one group, and they have their own group manager, as you can see here. And before, the way the groups worked, and you've seen them in previous videos, is the whole concept of a group, of a herd, or whatever a pack is. If one member of the group aggros, in other words, it goes to engaged, all of the members of the group would also engage, right? And if the engaged behavior is to flee, then everybody in the group would flee. Or if the engaged behavior would be to attack, for example, then everybody would attack, right? So that means that the group works as a unit, right? Fleeing, attacking, defending, trying to hide, whatever. But the previous code basically propagated the behavior of whichever member actually aggroed first. So if one of the members' default engaged behavior was to flee, but the other members were to attack, well, the entire group would flee because the engaged behavior that would propagate would be the one from the NPC that actually aggroed first. Hopefully I'm explaining that correctly. But that's not the behavior that you always want, right? What if you wanted the group to always behave in one way, regardless of the engaged behavior in the individual members? Or what if you wanted the leader to behave differently, right? One of the community members that's actually helping with ABK made a comment saying, it would be really nice if the leader would be aggressive while everybody else would be passive. In other words, let's say that you have like a male bear protecting all the female bears and the cubs, even though the female bears would get aggressive. But you get the idea, right? Or so I try to think of all of the different permutations here, and here's what I came up with, right? So now, instead of having that one single generic behavior, when you click on your group manager, you have now the option of having 3 different methods for the group to engage. You can use group engage behavior, which means that the entire group will use one behavior that you specify. You can then say the group would use the leader's engage behavior, right? So whatever the leader's engage behavior would be, that's what the group would do. Or you can use the individual engage behaviors, meaning everybody in the group would keep their own engage behaviors. So in this example, the buck, the male, the engaged behavior for this guy is going to be to attack, right? However, for this female, for example, the engaged behavior will be to ignore. Female number 2 would also say ignore, but female number 3 will say flee. So what happens now is, if I say, you know what, we're going to use the group engaged behavior, and the group engaged behavior in this case, I'm going to change it to flee. So what happens now is, everybody, regardless of the individual behaviors, will now start fleeing. And you'll see, as soon as I get close, you'll see that they're all running away. So you can see they're all fleeing. If I select the other option, which is use the leader's engaged behavior, remember the leader in this case is the male, and this guy's engaged behavior is attack. Everybody else's engaged behavior is either flee or ignore. So let's see what happens. As soon as I get close, they all attack me. So you can see here. And the reason for that is, again, because the leader's engaged behavior is to attack. So they're all attacking me, right? The entire group is now aggressive and attacking me because the leader was under attack. Or you can go here and say, no, I actually want them to retain their individual behaviors. And that is basically meaning don't do anything, just have them engage, but keep their engaged behavior. So what happens now is, as soon as I get close, the leader attacks me because he was set under attack. These 2 guys here, these 2 deers, were set to ignore, so they're literally ignoring me. And the third one, if you remember, was set to flee, which is what she's doing. She's fleeing. So now you have a lot more control over how you want your group to behave. If you have a group of, predators, for example, aggressive animals like wolves, maybe you want all of them to always be aggressive, right? Or maybe if you have one leader to be aggressive, but the rest of the group to be passive, you can do that as well. Or you can have everybody act like the leader would act, like thinking about the leader as leading the group. So if the leader decides to flee, then everybody flees, right? Because that's what the leader is doing. So kind of taking a cue from the leader. So it's really, really cool. It's again, it makes a lot of sense when you think about it, but it takes some time for you to go through everything and realize that some of these things didn't make sense at first. So a lot of this is pretty neat. I'm pretty happy with these three options. I'm trying to think of what other possibilities you might want to have in your game if you're using groups, but I think these three cover most of them. The other stuff here, for example, choose random leader. If you have this selected, the group manager will select an actual random leader from the group unless you want to select it individually. And then if you do that, it'll select a new leader every X amount of seconds. In this case, 600 seconds, right? There is now another new addition called no damage by members, and this was another problem, right? That I've seen before, that this is new, is if the members did AoE damage, or depending on their alignment, they could actually damage each other. So let's see what happens if I just take this off and say I want everybody to use the leader's engage behavior, which would be to attack, right? If I do that and I come here and I get close, they're all going to start attacking me, and I'm going to make myself immortal. And notice that these two does here are taking actually damage. You can see there's two, and they're taking damage from the buck and the doe that's behind. They're trying to hit me, but they're actually hitting the other members of the group. Whoa. So you get the idea, right? So again, it depends on the kind of game that you're making, right? By default, I have it that the group members cannot damage each other. And now in the same use case, I hit play and I get these guys to come attack me, and now you'll see that they're not hurting each other, right? So they are actually hitting each other, but they're actually not registering damage because they recognize that they're now part of the group. So again, the group code has been, I would say, significantly improved. There's also something else that I forgot to show you guys, and that's what brought me to this example, is that now you have under animal details an array called no damage tags. And this is basically an array of tags that if the damage causer to the animal has that tag, it will actually not register damage. And you can probably guess that the way that I'm making sure that the group members don't damage each other is by using this field here. So right now there are no damage tags in the array, meaning anybody can damage anybody. Right, so if I do this, let me just go ahead and go to the group manager and use group engage behavior of ignore, so they stay still. Say that I come here and I want to damage this buck, and I just shoot at it. You can see that this guy is taking damage. But if I were to come here to the buck and say, you know what, I actually don't want you to take damage from any actor who has a tag of player for the buck, and I hit play, notice that now he is not taking any damage. So you can see here, because I added that tag. So obviously that works to enhance the group dynamics, but this can be used for anything, right? So if you want certain animals to take damage only from certain other animals, or ignore certain animals, for example, you would use this list right here, no damage tags. Again, even more flexibility for your game. And the last thing is also improvements to the taming system. So I'm going to add a taming component, which is BP comp companion. And this is, again, more improvements. It used to be quite disorganized, so I changed it to use structs. So now you have three very distinct sections. You have companion details, bait details, and teleport details. And under companion details, you have the stance, passive or aggressive. And I've shown this before. If the stance is passive, which is the default, the animal will only become aggressive if it gets damaged, or you order it to attack. If it's aggressive, it'll actually attack anything that attacks its master or the player. Then the taming mode is whether you want to use bait or always tameable. Again, that was there before. This is new. Before, every time you wanted to, I'm gonna make it always tameable just to show the example. Before, every time you wanted to tame the animal, you would hit tame. You would have to enter the name of the companion, right? And then you'll see that now it has the actual name that you entered. You have it at the top of the animal, and you have it on the right hand side for the command, right? That's, again, pretty cool. That was the default behavior. But I added the option now of not having to enter that name. So if you go here to companion, actually the default would be to not enter a custom name. So if this is deselected, you now will use the default name, which is in this case companion, but you can put it whatever, right? So now if I hit play and I tame this guy, notice that automatically it named the companion, and I didn't have to enter the name. So again, more options. If you're playing a game where you don't care about the player customizing the companion's name, you just wanted to just create the companion, right? Then you have that option as well. Stay there. Follow me and go free. All right, let's see. I think that is it. I'm trying to remember. Show marker, bait details. All this stuff has been there before. Bait details, if you want to use bait, you can select what the bait tag is and the eating time. And there are some teleport behaviors here. And this happens if the companion gets out of LOS or really far, the companion will actually teleport to the player. I think that's pretty much it. Again, there has been a lot of little enhancements here and there and a lot of bug fixes, but these are the main things that I wanted to show you guys. You can customize the color and font of the animal. You can now specify which tags don't cause damage to the animal. The group behavior has been significantly improved with 3 different ways of propagating the engaged behavior among the group. Now you have the option of having the group not damage each other, for example, which I think is really great. And the taming system has been streamlined, as you can see, with much neater sections, and now the ability to not having to enter that name, which again could be annoying, especially if you're planning to create a game for console, for example, or expect people to be playing with a controller. They don't have a keyboard or a mouse. You probably don't want them to be entering names. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, I still have a list of things that I need to continue to test and improve. There's still a list of bugs that I have in my backlog, but I am making progress. Hope you guys enjoy the video and you like where this is going. If you have any suggestions about what I showed you guys today or anything else, please do let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot.